Hey there, CPO here, and in this video, got something really cool to show you. I'm reconfiguring the cargo area of Overclocked. And what I mean by that is I'm going diabolical on it. Let me tell you what's going on here. First, let me show you my current situation. That way you'll appreciate what I'm about to do. All right, so this is the typical cargo area configuration for me, and it actually works really well. I've got no real specific complaints about this. This is a GPCA Pro cargo cover and works great to keep looky-loos out of the back end of the Jeep and somewhat protect things. It actually keeps direct rain off of things that I have underneath there. Gives me some easy access while somewhat, like I said, protecting it from getting blown out or stolen. Inside the Jeep, underneath this cover, I also have a plastic toolbox with a little locking latch that is actually bolted to the floor. So it doesn't go anywhere, but it's mildly secure. Again, all this stuff keeps the honest people honest. The problem with it is it's an oddball size, so I end up with a lot of wasted space, although it kind of fits in perfect with that sub. But also, when I have this cover on and I want to get inside that, I've got to take this cover down. Which again, I love this GPCA cover. If you're just looking for something to cover the cargo area, see, and so I try and keep like more valuable things in there or things that I don't want rolling around. But like I said, I'm gonna go Diabolical. And what that means is Diabolical has this product called the Slipstream, which encloses the entire cargo area with a really cool and highly functional security enclosure. So that's what's going on now, guys. But let me make room for that install with some magical Jeep uninstall magic. Check it out. All ready to go. All right, guys, what I'm putting into Overclocked right now is the Slipstream XLS from Diabolical Inc. This is hands down the coolest, most usable rear cargo security enclosure that I've seen yet. I mean, it's beautiful and it takes advantage of the entire cargo area. There's none of that dead space like with that toolbox I had or other security enclosures that have lots of weird bracketry. This thing literally lets you take advantage of everything. So that brings me to a couple of points. Number one, I don't have any carpet in my Jeep. I haven't had carpet for 3 years. I pulled it out when I got it, never looked back. If you have carpet, you're okay. You can still use this. Don't think that because I have no carpet that you need to take your carpet out. It'll work fine with carpet. All right, next thing, if you have a rear seat recline kit, which I used to have, you're gonna have to pull it out to work with this. Because the Slipstream takes advantage of the entire usable space in the cargo area, it butts all the way up against that back seat. So if you put the recline kit in, it's just not gonna work nice. So yeah, I made the decision, easy decision, trade out the convenience of a little bit of a recline for this enclosure. It's totally worth it. And also one more thing to note, this version that I'm installing today, June 2018, is the latest in an evolution of the product. So if you've watched previous videos or seen other descriptions of this product, it may be a little bit different than what you see today, because they take the feedback from customers who use it and then incorporate that feedback into latest iterations of the product. So I'm going to show you some really cool new features that you might not have seen yet. Oh yeah, check it out. All right, so they do have a pretty comprehensive instruction sheet, and I've actually taken their recommendation of laying out a table, and I have one of these moving blankets on there. There's a little bit of pre-work that we're going to do here on the table. I can't believe how well packed this product is. Whoa, more of these peanuts. It's a little breezy out here, but man, the amount of foam that they used, it's crazy. I mean, they really, really did an amazing job. That's fascinating. All right, so basically getting everything out. Yes. And all the foam peanuts you can stand. You know, how people package products really says a lot about their pride in the product. Oh, and don't forget to get yourself out a cold one. Gatorade Fierce, hashtag not sponsored. All right guys, I've got everything laid out on the table and ready to start, and I'm gonna start right here with this locking little door panel. This is gonna go behind the driver's side rear seat, and it's going to be a little access panel that you can use to get into the back from inside the passenger compartment area. So that's a really cool feature. I like the idea of being able to quickly like stuff things away. If I'm parking, I go around with doors off a lot. So it's nice to be able to just have a way to tuck some things back there, toss a backpack through there, something like that, without opening up the back. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is take off this screw, and we're actually going to end up flipping this lever to be backwards from what it is now. So once you remove that cam lever, the whole thing is sort of loose. There is another little O-ring right inside there. Don't lose that either. And I'm going to push this through. So the key is parallel with the top and rotates like that. Basically goes to the 12 o'clock and the 3 o'clock position. And then with it in the 3 o'clock position, I'm holding that O-ring, you can see. I'm going to install this serrated nut, which the serrated side goes against the metal. All right, I'm going to put just a little bit of blue thread lock on this as I install the cam lever. A couple things to note. Number one, make sure you see that the lever is close to the access door, not pointed away from it, but pointed towards it. Also, this is a fairly large Phillips head. This is a number 3. So if you're using a standard like number 2 size, it might be a little bit small. So if you have a number 3, use it, it's probably better. And then you can tighten this up. You don't have to over tighten it. I just use a crescent wrench. All right, for this, there is this little spacer. All right, we're gonna need that. So when we add the access panel, the hinges will lay flat. All right, hinges are pretty much identical. We're gonna set that just like that, just like that. Now we're going to loosely add these washers and little lock nuts. I just flip this around so that I can add these little washers and nylock nuts. I'm just sort of holding everything in an alignment that looks good. This little 5/16 inch wrench I'm using. All right, so you've got a bit of this, looks like 1/2 inch foam. And what we're going to do is install it. So basically what I want this foam to do is just ride the very edge of this opening. And then we're going to add a strip across the top as well. That gives a nice padded place for that to rest, no rattling. All right, so now I'm going to stick this magnet here, which is going to bridge that gap there at the cam lever and also provide a little bit of cushion there. Turn the key. You just want to make sure that it covers the entire cam action, so it'll be off center a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to work on these two wing assemblies, the wing walls, which are very strategically taped and protected. Oh, look, more popcorn. The amount of engineering that has gone into this thing is pretty ridiculous, which is why I just fell in love with it. All right, wing walls. All right, and I need these guys. These are the frame rail flanges. All right, so I'm laying this out just like they have in the manual, so I can get everything lined up and figure out what's what. All right, that's how that's gonna go. So what we want to do is put some foam here. And I'm just gonna eyeball this. And I'm gonna cut two of them to be the same length. All right, so I got this big old bag of hardware here. That's what I'm digging into for this. All right, so I'm gonna use carriage bolts and I'm gonna put them through the center two holes on both sides. So the top and bottom is still clear. Flipping it over. And then washer, 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 and nylock nuts. All right, 7/16. Tighten that down. The good thing about those carriage bolts is with that square shoulder, all you have to do is put it on a flat table like this, and it'll hold the back for you. And it pretty much self-aligns because you've got the square lag holes on both panels. It just sort of self-aligns with the bolt. It's just brilliant. Like, there's not even a way for me to accidentally screw this up, I don't think. And set those aside, and we're gonna prep the wing skins. That are these guys. These are, without a doubt, one of the coolest features of this particular enclosure. It's really what gives it such a clean look. All right, so once you have these laid in the right orientation as they're going to be on the Jeep, which in this case, I'm looking from the back of the Jeep, the tire will be out back this way. And I've got my straight sides. These are for my roll bar. And then this little square here is for the windshield washer fluid hose and the electrical for the windshield washer on the hardtop. So we know that that is on the driver's side and the passenger side doesn't have that. Now that we have that orientation, we're gonna flip them over to the underbelly and we're gonna apply some foam. And this is what's gonna protect the Jeep paint from getting all boogered up. And yeah, so I'm gonna just sort of wing this and have a go at it. The manual actually gives some pretty good instructions, like with degrees of how you should do things, but in the end, what you want is the edge of this to be lined in foam. So with that goal in mind, if you're a technical specifics person, you can do those fancy cuts, or if you're a results-oriented person, you can just lay it how it's gonna go. So just remember the goal. The goal is to have a foam edge around the outside. All right, now that we've got our foam on, what we need to do is cut the foam out of these little holes here and then trim up any foam on the edges. All right. Look, Ma, no blood. Okay, so now what I want to do is go ahead and put on this cover here. It's this guy. And that's there so that when you're not using your hard top, you can cover that up. That's pretty cool. So for that, we're gonna dig into this goodie bag, get a nut, a washer, and a carriage bolt. And I'm not using my hard top right now, so closing that now makes perfect sense. All right, so flipping these guys back over. Next, we're gonna install the wing fork plates. So the wing fork plates are these guys. All right, so the orientation of these is just like this. They're designed to fit flat against here and then give a little bit of a lip, and that's going to install over the lip of the Jeep tub area. And yeah, back to this bag of goodies. They recommend just 2/3 of the way. That way it's loose enough it'll still expand up and then slip over. Now there are these that you can use as tie-down spots on top of the security enclosure. They're not mandatory, but they are pretty cool. All right, so these are your upper frame rails. Show them to you like this. And basically what we're gonna do is put some more of this foam tape right along here. Again, if you get this right, you'll probably gain 5 horsepower. If you screw it up, you easily lose 15 or 20. All right, those are prepped and ready. Now, after all that prep work, we finally get to the Jeep. All right. All right, remove those 2 nuts using a 3/4 inch. It'll probably be harder for you. I've had those off recently again because I removed my rear recline kit, so they're freshly removed. Now we're gonna use these wing wall mounts. And they're basically gonna go in like that, where they push to the outside. And just leave everything finger tight for now until we get it all in place. Okay, driver's side is gonna go right here, just like that. And we're gonna use the all too familiar carriage bolt, washer, and nylock nut. All right, loosely right there. Same thing with the passenger side. So it's oriented so that the foam is facing this way, if that helps you think about it. Wing walls. All right, now we're going to be digging in with the use of these guys. This is what lets us take this whole thing apart quickly and easily. And now I am going to set this in there, and I'm going through all the holes and across to the other side. Spoiler alert, this is how you'd also remove these panels if you need it for extra cargo space. They're quick and easy to release from the inside, but not releasable at all from the outside. All right, now we're going to install what they call the giraffe bracket. But before we do that, we're just going to mark the position of this striker here. This is what the tailgate latches into, and it's adjustable, and so we can readjust it if you need to, but the safer approach is just to mark where it's at now in position, so that once we loosen it up and add the giraffe bracket, we can just put it back where it was. This is a T45 Torx. Very popular size Torx for the Jeep. And see how this is now loose, and that's why we adjusted it. So I know that it's centered between the edge of the tape and then lined up with those marks. All right, so this is the giraffe bracket. Alan calls it the giraffe bracket because it looks like a giraffe, and actually it kind of does. Anyway, that's pretty cool. So we're gonna slip this. There's a little backing plate here. We're gonna slip it between the plate and the latch. And I'm gonna need to loosen that up a little bit more. You kind of get these bolts out far enough for this bracket to fit between the spacer and the latch itself. There we go, and the head pointing forward. All right, now I'm coming over to the hinge side, and I'm gonna remove this little D-ring holder here. I'm using a T27 Torx. All right, and we're gonna install this multi-bend bracket right here. And this bracket's gonna look different depending on what year Jeep you have. This is a 2015. I believe it's the same bracket for the earlier years, like 2011, if you don't have the subwoofer, or 2015 and higher because they moved the sub there to the middle. All right, so I'm gonna leave that a little bit loose. All right, now we're gonna install these frame rails, and it's got this flange here. We put foam on it before for the top. There's a side that's got a larger gap here of the flange, and then a side that's got a shorter, smaller one. The larger side is what's gonna go forward. So this is actually gonna go like, all right, so we're gonna start with installing this on the front of the wing wall here. And this is where things get a little bit tricky, depending on the size of your fingers. So what could help is to take a little extension and put your nut in there. Use that to sort of get things started. Just be careful not to cross thread. And you do want to leave it loose. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on the frame rail to the multi-bend bracket. Let me just show you this because it's important. You're just basically going to come in like this. Don't tuck the multi-frame rail inside. it'll be on the outside of it. All right, that's the start of that. All right, same process in here. All the usual tricks apply to getting washers and nuts into weird spots, including tape, magnets, whatever you need to do. If you can't get it, if you don't have skinny enough fingers or whatever. Here on the draft, same thing. It's going to go through the outside in, and then washer. Now we have our frame rails in, looking good. All right, so now that we have everything in place, we can go ahead and tighten these guys down. But not these two brackets. All right, for this step, you're gonna need your factory bolts for your hard top and the hardware underneath, or whatever you need. If you have a factory soft top, I'm not even sure. Funny thing is, I don't know where my hard top bolts are. I haven't used them in a long time. So I'm gonna use these GPCA tie downs that I used previously. They basically screw in there as if, so where I'm putting these, you're gonna put the hardtop factory bolts. All right, now starting with the one for the driver's side, we're gonna slip this over. We want this fork to fit under there, like that. And then, all right, and you got these fender washers that come in your kit. That's what they are for. And we've got this wing skin spot here. And this is where you start to get flexy with your body. Let me get under here. All right, got that one started. There we go. All right, we have everything sort of loosely up here and movable. Now what I'm gonna do is put on these tie-down rails. Now these are completely optional, but it really does add a nice touch where you have a place to tie things down on your top when it's closed. For example, you could throw coolers up here, whatever, and this gives you some convenient tie-down points. So I'm gonna set this up here. Notice I'm putting it with the tie-down side, this side, on the out, which is facing the roll bar, and the flat part is gonna be closest to the top. And also from an alignment perspective, it'll only fit on one side because you've got this extra hole here. And if you've got the wrong one, there will not be a hole. So swap them out if you don't have that hole right here. That hole is gonna hold this little wing right here, which is gonna bridge that gap there around the roll bar and clean that up. So I'm gonna save that until I get a couple of these bolts started though, just to make it easier. And then I'm gonna start the washers and nuts on those. Remember, this one's empty. I'm not gonna tighten anything down really tight yet until I get this slipped in. Now, you've got a channel here that you've gotta slide up in, get a washer, find a way to keep it up there, and then get your nut started. So if you can do it with your fingers, great. It's really hard for me to get, even with my skinny fingers, to get a good hold on that. So let me show you my trick. All right, so I've got my little socket and my extension here. I'm just gonna wrap a little bit of blue tape here, and that is gonna hold my washer. So I'll go ahead and put my nut in there, and then I can just set the washer on top, and that tape will hold it in place. Then I can come up in here and just start it, and there you go. So let me get all these started with just a couple of turns, and then I'll come back and we'll deal with this wing. Okay, that's on there. Now I'm just going to slip this right in here and push down to sort of hold it in place and get that bolt in. Just getting them almost tight for now. We've got some final adjustment to do with the top in place. All right, just like that. Now I'll move over to the passenger side. It's gonna look exactly the same. I'm not gonna show it, I'm just gonna do it. All right, now we need to prep our actual top cover. And it's a two-part cover that will be held together with hinges, or not if you choose not to. So you basically have an option here. You can make a hinge top cover, which is one of the new features of this current version of the Slipstream. Or if you want a single cover, you can actually just bolt these together. They provide these holes here on both sides, and you can simply use the same nuts, bolts, and washers to make them a single piece. But I'm going with a two-piece cover because I like that function, and I'll also show you have a couple options of how you install this. One of them I think is preferable, which is the way I'm going to do it. So anyway, for this we're going to basically put it together to where our hinge holes line up, and then we have a bag with this hinge hardware, and these are going to just fit in there just like that. Now I'm showing you upside down how these are going to go, but I've got to flip this thing over so that I can actually put the hardware on. So the way I'm going to do it for the actual assembly is just rotate these upside down and then slip a hinge under, and then just like that. All right, now as far as alignment, what I want to do is get these things lined up as evenly as possible. I am going to do what's recommended, which is run another piece of this weather stripping. I don't have any more that's big enough, but that 1/2 inch weather stripping you can put between these two, and that'll help sort of seal that gap there. They seem to have gone metric on us with these, so I'm using a 10mm for this. Again, trying to get it as evenly aligned as possible. All right, I'm gonna flip this over one more time. All right, so for my install, the smaller panel is gonna go towards the back of the Jeep. And that'll give me a little bit of a lift up, but then I can also fold this whole thing back. Now, Diabolical does state that you could reverse it if you wanted to and have the larger panel closer. It gives you a bigger lift point versus having the entire thing, obviously. But you don't have the ability to sort of fold them and stack them back. So I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But this is going to be the rearmost panel. And now what I want to install is this tailgate wing. So this can go one of two ways. It can go like this, where it's completely flat across the top and basically rests on top of the tailgate. Or it can go like this, where it goes down below and actually gets captured by the tailgate. So if you're running this with a top, you're going to need room for like the window glass or the soft top hardware and all that stuff. So if you put it in this down position, it will be compatible with your tops. If you just want to run it without a top and have a nice smooth clean finish off the back, then that's why you'd flip it over. But I'm going this way. Now there is going to be some potential final adjustment of this, although I am sort of putting it flat. right, there we go. There's my top cover with my rear tailgate wing. Now we're ready to install this in the Jeep and then do our final adjustment. All right, now that I have everything sort of loosely up here, wing skins are loose, rails are loose, I'm gonna go ahead and fit the top on there. It's actually a really nice fit. See how that's going to fold back just like that. Now I'm going to go up underneath and put these two pins on the back corners of this top. Actually, I'll make it easier on myself by folding that back. Now what they recommend you do is use some trim tools to sort of space this out evenly before you tighten everything up to ensure you've got enough room for this to move freely. I gotta be honest with you, I think everything looks so nice the way it is. I'm just gonna tighten everything down like this. So I think what I'm gonna do is just push out as I tighten these in on the corners. Everything else looks just perfect. So now what I'm going to go through and do is just tighten everything down. Again, making sure that my wing skins are all placed properly where I have all my holes lined up that I need. And I'm just going to systematically go through and tighten all this up. All right, so I'm going in here now, tightening up these bracket bolts, and this is just something you have to deal with. It's not too bad if you have a ratcheting wrench. Go ahead and tighten these guys down. All right, so I've pretty much got everything tightened down except this giraffe. We're gonna make some final up and down adjustment after that. So let me go do the same on the other side. All right, so now all of this is tight, again, except for this little ends right here. I'm gonna go ahead and close the lid. And then now we're going to look at how the tailgate closes. So I can already see right here, I need to come up. All right, you can see here how I'm adjusting this, but you gotta be careful too, not to get your tape trapped in there. So I want the giraffe straight up and down, and let me just double check that. That is just about perfect. Yep. I'm going to tighten this down. So with the tailgate closed, with this lip, that's one of the reasons why I like having this in this configuration. It can come over and just rest on the top, but with it in there, it actually gets trapped by the tailgate. All right, so now I'm going to double check the alignment on the other side. That looks good right there. That's secured by this one bolt right here. Final tighten that down. Then I can also tighten that guy down, which is already pretty much there. Double check all these are tight. Get this seat bracket finally locked down. You can lower this down if you need to, or just mess with that if you want. All right, so we got 4 more of these pins. Let me show you where they're gonna go. So in the middle, there's a hole to secure the front corners of that back piece. That's to keep it from being able to push up from the middle, all right? It'll secure it. And then the last ones are right here to hold this one in. So I showed you how it locks underneath the tailgate, but that's not really what keeps people from getting into this. It's these pins from the underneath. So with that and this shut, this is impenetrable and looks freaking amazing. This thing looks nice. Actually, there's one more thing we need to do, and that's put the Diabolical ink sticker on. All right, so a couple thoughts on adjustment. Once you get the height leveled where you want it here, right, and how things all close up, you do have room to adjust this by loosening up these 3 bolts and then moving that up and down. I was able to get it adjusted to where everything was flat across, fit well within the tailgate without having to mess with this. All right, so one thing you may have noticed already, which is way cool. Look at this. No bar. You have full access to the rear cargo area of your Jeep. That is cool. Including back in here, which is usually wasted space in a lot of these installs because they sort of box things in, but I store stuff in there. So that's a good place to have access to. And you can see how this can fold up out of the way. If you need to carry something big and you want to just leave this at home, you can. It's out of the way. But wait, there's more. You've got some big cargo to carry. This folds back out of the way, or just like the top, take off the last 2 pins, pull it out, leave it at home. A lot of thought went into this design. And putting it back together is just this easy. Check it out. So you got to ask yourself, do you want security? Yes. Do you want access? Yes. This has everything. It gives you complete and total access, takes advantage of your entire cargo area, and now you can see why. Look how tight those seats fit back there. You've got a little sliver of space back there behind the seat, good umbrella space or maybe a blanket or something like that. But man, really, really cool. So I'm actually driving around today with no doors and no top, obviously, and I have my computer bag with the computer in it, and I had to stop at the store and get something. So rather than messing around with trying to hide this underneath a seat or carry it with me, I can now just literally slip that into the back, lock it in, and I'm good to go. All right, guys, so one other thing I want to talk about, and this question came up actually on Instagram. This is not a watertight enclosure. It's not designed to be. It's a security enclosure. It's designed to protect people from getting at your stuff, not necessarily protect it from getting wet. That's what tops are for. You are going to be hard pressed to find anything that is a cargo only enclosure that's watertight. Even if just around these areas, there's places for water to get in. But I will say this, with this split top, there is a way to keep water from dripping down right in the middle of your stuff. I'm okay if water sort of seeps around the edges. I know it's going to drain out. I know I've got drain plugs here that I can pull, but I don't want stuff like getting wet from the top, right? So this seam right here, I actually use this auto and marine rubber weather seal. Works perfect. Let me show you. So as you can see, I ran that right along the one panel, and then when I close it down, it creates a nice watertight seal right here, which is just going to keep water from running down directly on top of things. Now I did adjust the hinges. I loosened up these hinge bolts here and here, and then closed it up with the seal in place, kind of pushed it back to squinch it up, and then went underneath and retightened that. The reason is it originally didn't want to close all the way. It kind of popped up because that seal was so thick. But I just made an adjustment on the hinges. But now I've got a nice rubber automotive and marine grade seal right there. So anyway, there's a tip for you if you want to keep water from just coming down on the top. But remember, as awesome as this thing is, you're not going to find anything that's waterproof for the cargo area, not like this anyway. So anyway, guys, that is the Slipstream, in this case the XLS, because it's for a 4-door JK. The XL would be for the 2-door, but man, this thing is awesome. And like I said, guys, they left nothing untouched. This thing has been engineered to the max, and yeah, I think it's the best one out there. So one other tip, somebody had said that if you plasti dip those pins, it may help with rattle. So if you do have rattle, plasti dip those pins. I'm gonna wait and see if it's something that I even need, but great tip. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Go check out the install videos from Diabolical Inc. You can find them by doing a search on YouTube for Slipstream install. You'll find my video, and you'll find some other videos from other installs, plus the ones at Diabolical. And remember, they're always improving the product. So keep checking them out. Hit their website up, diabolicalinc.com. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.